Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mels 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Everything we see, so everything should be blue. So it's just hilarious. That's what I got this weekend.
The YouTube comment section debates, right?
Oh man, YouTube comments is the best place to find globe quotes.
Yeah, I just wrote a little comment to some dudes this morning on a YouTube channel with about 50,000 subs. And FE discussion was like one part of the video. And all they talked about was eclipse for like 10 minutes. You know, what flat earthers think, what they know. It was like 10, 15-minute talk just about eclipse. I'm like thinking, it. But I wrote him a comment, you know, Earth is experienced, measured, navigated, flat and stationary and all that. And the dude was saying, if he could talk to a genuine flat earther, he would love it. It would make his day. It would be the best conversation of his life. So I wrote him a little comment, you know, Earth is measured, navigated, and all that, flat and stationary. You know, if you're truly interested in talk, let's talk. So let's see what the response is.
Ooh, I want to hear.
Go ahead, man.
I want to hear the response. Yeah.
Yeah. At least they seem like a genuine two dudes. You know, they're talking about the stuff and they just mentioned their fee and they weren't going out of their way to ridicule anything. Because if they were, I wouldn't even bother, you know, like writing a comment. But since they were genuine, I wrote him a comment. And since he said he wants to talk to a flat earther, I'm like, all right, let's see, man. Maybe he really actually does. Chester, calm down. Going after a freaking dog. My dog wants to kill every other dog, dude. And he's like the smallest little thing. But yeah, I don't know. What do we got?
Don't step on it.
Yeah, Napoleon. My little Napoleon, dude. He literally wants to kill every dog he sees. But in the house, dude, he's like the biggest smuggler you can imagine, dude. A little cuddle dog. Outside on the street, dude. Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mind the dog. Don't step on it.
Man, what another beautiful day, dude. The weather's been stellar lately, dude. Can't get enough of it.
We have a cloudy, rainy day in London.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's your England, bro. Beautiful blue skies. It's gonna be like 30 degrees today. It's breezy. It's not humid or anything. I mean, perfection, dude. Everything is green. Love it. But I'm still looking to move south, more south from here in the next decade or so. To escape the winters, yeah. I don't like winters, man. Every year I'm getting older, the winter is tougher and tougher. So maybe not all the way to Florida, but
So
South
go to South
Carolina or North
America.
Carolina. Yeah.
Go to South
man.
America in
Yeah.
your winter. Go to South America. It's summer there.
Yeah, I
And
gotta learn
when
Spanish. I speak a little bit of Spanish. I
so
speak
there
a
you
little
go.
bit of Spanish. I can get around.
Well, once you move in and start speaking often, so
Yeah.
you'll dominate the language.
George, you speak Portuguese, right? But you also understand Spanish, right?
Yeah, correct. And Italian, and a bit of French.
And Italian too, but that's all comes through your Portuguese, right? Because a lot of words are similar.
That's correct. They're driven from Latin, so
Yeah, yeah. And what's going on? Where the heck is everybody? Oh, good
Nathan is
morning.
here.
Nathan is here, yeah. Okay. G
Yeah.
Crypto also. Good morning, guys.
Hey guys.
No video. All right, we can. I was gonna put my camera on, show you guys. Nope, can't put the camera
Showing
on
us
here.
your dog.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Nathan. You said dog. What?
What are you showing us?
Just the beautiful weather, but the camera doesn't work. I can't put the camera on the server. Gonna show you the beautiful blue sky.
Fair enough.
I'm home right now.
Hello, John. Hello, Neil.
We have a co-show in the chat. Good morning. Oh, just left. Good morning, John. Good morning, Neil.
Morning.
You guys know co-show, right?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Boy, all the other ones are coming back, huh? Swimming Clown, now Kosho. They're in serious pain. That's what it is.
He claims hurricanes go in a straight line.
He also got welcome to Flat Earth in a fairly infamous clip where he's decrying Earth curve by declaring that a little mini boat's disappearing through an optical resolution limit. He gets about 5 people telling him welcome to Flat Earth.
It's getting tougher and tougher for the bowlers. Mainly nowadays, any claim come out of their mouth are going to require a flat plane.
Basically.
And some of them are becoming aware of that.
Yes, and it's very frustrating. Hard times have changed. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Been meaning for the last 3 days to watch your 45-minute video. I just haven't had the chance.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a rundown on it, and you can watch it then afterwards if you want. Just basically me showing them the only way it can work mathematically on a globe is after you've used the flat plane. That's about size of it, really. I have 2 different ways it can work on a globe. I have 4 ways it can work. They all start with a flat plane, and only 2 of them can be mathematically made to work on a globe. Well, maybe 3 on a globe. But it all starts with a flat plane. That's the whole point.
Perfect.
You should watch it because even if you don't watch it, I sent you a thing. Did you see that thing I sent you from Walter Bislin there recently?
That did look at, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, he's literally like, if you look at both of those, the globe version of his coordinate, because you can, if you go in and have a look at the controls, you can take away the map and the globe, all the continents and all that. Just keep it as purely a grid, like a sphere or a proper latitude and longitude grid. And basically, it just shows how they hijacked the celestial dome. That's all it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? Everything they're doing on that globe with the coordinates, everything that's happening with that globe from the coordinates is just happening on the flat plane. They're just putting a sphere around it. Do you know what I mean? They're putting a dome up above it and below it, and they're calling it globe. They're calling it reality. Like, that's all it is, isn't it?
Brian, what video is this?
My most recent one, but the thing I posted to Nathan, I posted in Master B now, so everyone can see it. 1 second, Nathan.
There's no need. I've posted it to you as a screenshot rather than a link, so I could just display it as a photograph with all the little slidey bars and the flat plane and then the center of Earth. It's really clearly laid out.
He actually did a brilliant job on it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I was like, well done, Bislin. You really nailed the globe to death with this one.
Well, they can't not. There's two ways of looking at it. One is that they're just doing what the globe does and putting it into a mathematical format, turning that into a model, giving it some colour. Well, that's just doing the do. But then we can now look at it from a different perspective. Well done for proving how flat Earth is, because you can see how flat Earth is when you're taking your measurements from hell and depicting them as such. They can't do it any other way, though, can they?
No, that's been the point all along, you see. But the point, I didn't relay the information correctly. That was my point with Kepler years ago, and my point with GPS when I was talking about surveying and ECEF system. It's all just happening on the surface of Earth, and they're just making it seem like something is happening from a center point of a globe, when that center point is just the flat surface we're on. You know what I mean? That's all it is. Everything starts with flat. Even that geophysicist guy, he claims to be, supposedly he's a geophysicist, that banjo, flat earth banjo, Brazil and Japan, that Eddie is the guy's name, he posted. And this guy is Brazilian, and he's a geophysicist, and he's attacking the ballers. And he's saying, I always use a flat plane for my job. That's what he's saying. I was saying, that's why I posted I put it in Master B and left a link to John, to Refracted's name, because it's exactly what Refracted has been saying for ages. Like, you know what I mean? You know, you're going to need a flat plane for those things you're trying to do. You know, he was saying that he's listening to ballers online making all kinds of claims that are completely false when it comes to geophysics. Well, and I don't know exactly what that is, to be honest with you. I don't know that. He's basically dealing with stuff to do with the underneath the ground, I take it, you know. But he's basically saying that he, like, when he's dealing with anything, he's just using a flat plane. The model he uses is the flat plane. You know, so and he went against it at first, and now he's just like some guy he worked with or something was pushing it upon him, and he got angry at the guy, and
sorry,
when he actually
be more specific. Pushed what on? What's it? Just be a bit more.
Oh,
specific.
sorry. The man was trying to say that this other guy he's working with, another geophysicist or supposedly, or someone he was working with, was trying to say the Earth was a flat plane and not a globe. And he got angry at the guy. He said he literally got, according to, I don't know if the guy how correct the testimony is, if it's true or not, but he got angry supposedly with the guy and told the guy to get away from him, or I can't remember exactly how he put it, but he did get angry with the guy and went completely against the whole idea of the Earth not being a globe but being a flat plane. And then when he started looking at it more realistically, I can't remember what it was that actually changed his mind. It might be worth playing. It might be worth playing just as a response video. But when he changed his mind, something changed. Something triggered with him and changed his mind. And he realized, no, even what I do can't be done on the globe, and these are the reasons. So,
yeah, I saw that video. It's quite a slog because it was all translated, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there was a bit of feast and nonsense in there and that as well. But what can you do? That's what's going to be in there.
Well, that's the thing. You got to chew the meat to get to the bones, or whatever they say. Chew the meat, spit out the bones, rather.
Yeah,
when you're
exactly,
reading it all in dialogue translation, it's quite a lot to take in. I did watch that though. What was the other thing I was going to mention? Oh yeah, on Friday. It was a shame you weren't here. There was an Aussie guy who came along that was arguing for satellites. I don't know if you happened to watch that after the fact.
I did. I saw that. I saw he was I saw where he was going. See, the thing about it is if I was there, I could have gone through it with him and dealt it with, but it would have been a bit of a drawn-out process.
I kind of
You know
hope
what I mean?
that.
Yeah.
When you don't fully understand something, as I don't with the case of GPS, I'm pretty sure I declared that to immediately. I'm like, I'm no expert. We'll do our best. Shane Bryan's not here. But I kind of wanted it to get dragged out because, yes, I can cut the guy off the knees, but, you know, in the last 6 months or so, you've been highlighting the fact that I have self-declared this, using it as a shortcut instead of learning the topic fully. And you're like, I'm kind of not really practicing what I preach when I tell people, well, yeah, you can just get on with your life if you know how Earth's measured. But if you're going to enter into debate, you need to know the intricacies. And in this instance, I don't know the intricacies. I know the basics. And I know how the map that they end up using works. I've got a vague understanding of ECEF. And then when they start with the globe, that's where I kind of lost track. I've watched the 3 videos, I think it was prior to the one that you've just released. And it still hasn't sunk in. I can follow along with what you're saying, but translating that into being able to argue the toss within the subject in the argument, you can tell, obviously, you know the subject well, where I fell down with that debate. So I'm quite keen to hear your critique of it, actually, because in debate, you're like, well, yes, you've led him straight to the centre of Earth, and that was the best bit of it, really, when he has got nothing to say, has he? When he gets to the centre of Earth and he's referencing it, what do you do?
Well, yeah, exactly, because that's the XY. I mean, he needs an XYZ, right? That's the XY. He also doesn't realise he's using the horizontal coordinate system, which is azimuth and elevation. Because XYZ it works with azimuth and elevation. The two of them go hand in hand. You know, all these coordinate systems, they all work with each other. You know what I mean? Well, I see, like once he talked about XY, like basically, all you have to really do is you can go about it in 2 ways. If you want to just, without knowing much, you can go about it in 2 ways. Because as I said, if I was going to go about it, it would be more of a bit of a drawn out process where I'm getting him to get to the point where he's making statements about how it works, and I'm pointing out, or whoever's pointing out, that that couldn't happen and it's not possible. And here are the reasons why. So you can go down that road where he talks about they get a signal from a satellite and they get a coordinates of the satellite and they get that 4 times and everything's hunky-dory. That's basically what their claim is. And you know what I mean? That's the bit, without adding in too much more. That's basically their claim. Now that's geometrically impossible, what they're claiming. You can also attack it from the two-way speed light calculation because they're claiming to use general relativity for the distances to the satellites. You can go down all that road as well. That's a road I probably will go down next, just attacking the two-way speed of light rather than dealing with GPS. But the easiest way is the XY. You know, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with where is this angle coming from? The XY, right? And the Z. Where's it all coming from? It's coming from a flat plane at the center. You know what I mean? And there's going to be another XYZ on the surface. So if you have 4 satellites, the sub point of all those 4 satellites and where the receiver is, that's going to be 5 flat planes. They're just going to be claiming they're like on a disco ball, as opposed to
that was basically your thumbnail, wasn't it?
Yeah, because like that, as I said, the most as soon as they start talking about X, Y, Z, just ask them what's X and Y. That's all. If you want to take the simple route, what's X and Y? Like that's the old way I would have gone about it. What's X and Y? Because that's X and Y is a horizontal plane. What's the Z? Oh, it's an elevation above that horizontal plane. There are 3-dimensional coordinates. Grand. What has that got to do with a globe? You know what I mean? Because after that, they have to go into. It's after that point they then start going into the nonsense about these distances of 12 and 13,000 miles to these random areas in the sky, and they then start going into that. So as a quick kill, you can just ask him about the X and Y, or you can just leave him waffle on and just take it apart as you go. Just deal with it as you go, because ask him to go through the process, to detail the process, starting with A, going right through to Z. And what you'll find is they get to a point where they only have Wikipedia to regurgitate.
Right.
And it won't make any sense. It won't mean anything because logically, if you look into their actual claim, it's a nothing. The actual claim is a nothing. I can maybe show you on the live show if you want.
Yeah. Unless someone's got... Did someone have a video they wanted to discover today? Because if not, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll just get out GeoGebra and show you, where, and maybe some of the slides where things just don't work for them. It's basically, as I said, and it's just stupid. What stupid thing is, I literally gave them one way. I have another way for it to definitely, how you could geometrically make it work on a globe. The official claim, if you did this, this, and this, and started with a flat plane, right? And none of them will accept it. None of the ballers will accept it because I'm using the subpoint and a few other things. It's like that you have to use those things. Do you know what I mean? What the problem is that we're dealing with an opposition that believe in magic. That's literally the problem.
Sure. So
and
all
when
you're doing is going
something
through...
is a magic, they're not happy about it.
It sounds like you're just going through the motions of showing how it would function, right, for them on a globe with a global surface. A hint of the last 3 videos you did, right? But when there's a flat Earth requirement within their mathematics that is suggestive of a globe, you're pointing it out, right? Labouring it, obviously. And they don't like it. So
no,
your understanding of it isn't being put, the stresses of what you're telling them in your video aren't being put on the end result of, well, now it's a globe, therefore we're on a globe, by affirming the consequent. You're saying, here's the flat plane we measure, here's how it gets transposed into the measurements, and if you are to suggest that you're taking these 5 different flat planes on a surface that's spherical, it's going to get very messy very quickly, like in your thumbnail. So you're just showing how complicated that page 86 conversion is if you're going to suggest that it goes onto a sphere, but for GPS, right?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm showing them how they can mathematically make it work. But the problem with what I'm showing them is it means it has to only be a belief then. It can't be something that they can see as reality. Then it has to just be a belief. If you do this, it'll work on a globe, mathematically, after you've used the flat plane.
I love it.
Kind of, do you know what I mean? And it's like, so it's gone out of the realm of this is a real thing that proves a globe to it's something you can believe in if you want it because you like globes. That's probably about the size of it.
Yeah, we're showing the flat Earth origins of their belief, and it frustrates them greatly. And I don't blame them, I mock them in the regards that, well, we're the advanced heliocentrists now. We understand the origins of your belief, and you should really thank us because we're showing you behind the curtain. Now, you want to just maintain the smoke and mirrors and believe that the man really did disappear. We're pulling back the curtain and showing you the mechanisms of how it all functions. And you don't like it because you don't want the curtain pulled back. You want the suspension of disbelief, and we're ruining it.
Yeah, that's
for Timmy.
I'm sure I've explained this before, but Stephen Burkoff, is one of the directors for the Star Trek Next Generation TV series, right? And he wrote a book called Alienation, and it was specifically about that, how to not, by knowing how, alienate your audience. That is to keep them in the suspension of disbelief that allows them to fantasize about the scenario in front of them without detaching themselves so far away from it that it becomes unrealistic to them. They're not part of the action. So you want to get people to suspend disbelief when they're watching your play, or in this case, TV show, whatever it is, movie. Now, the globe is no different. You're all involved in a suspension of disbelief if you're a globe believer. Now, unfortunately, if you're in the middle of trying as a performer and a director and a stage set designer, and you're trying to mask off the outside world in such a way that the audience can suspend disbelief. Now, in the same analogy as I used a second ago, if someone comes along and, not just figuratively, but literally pulls back the curtain to reveal the bare concrete and wires that are behind the curtains, then suddenly it doesn't matter how good King Lear is. You've lost that disbelief. It's the same as having a Ford Transit in Braveheart. Now, yeah, you don't catch it because the reason people don't see the transit is because to them it's not there when they're suspending disbelief in the movie. It's only after someone pauses and shows you that it's there that you realise, oh, obviously it's just a set. It's like, well, of course it is. You allow yourself to suspend disbelief. The difference with the globe is you're not allowing yourself, you're unaware that you're suspending disbelief. So it becomes very, what's the word? I was going to say aggressive or stark or something like that. When someone forcibly shows you that what you thought was real in front of you, like in Plato's Cave, isn't real. So it's like watching King Lear and believing he's really the king, and then someone shows you all the backdrops and reveals the curtain and shows that it's not really what's going on in front of you. So suddenly the king isn't the king anymore very quickly, and that can be cognitively quite jarring. That's the word. Go on, whoever it was Duncan. That's your hot micing. Duncan? Okie dokie.
Well, you still haven't answered the question, Nathan. How does these planar measurements work on a flat Earth? Huh? No, I'm going to ask it 15 times.
At one point during the discussion with Tim Osman, he actually said, well, it's the horizontal plane obscuring the horizontal plane based on your height of the horizontal plane, or something like that. He summed up what you suggest in terms of, well, in the maths, you're using a horizontal plane to obscure your view, which is obviously absurd, given that the mathematics itself is an assertion that there's a curve falling away from you, and the height of that curve is what causes your obstruction, aka Earth curve, because that's what the name of the maths is. But in reality, what it's functionally doing is using a flat plane to claim that is obscuring your view. And that's how Tim broke it down, because he's obviously not that stupid. He can understand these concepts in mathematics when they're broken down for him, as you and I did. So by the time it's broken down for him, he's under the he's not under any misapprehension about the process of what's being performed in those maths by the time he left, was he? Because he parroted them back as though saying a flat plane is causing an obstruction is actually a defense. It wasn't, but that's how he described it, because that is what it does.
Yeah, like I said, what we're pointing out is not contentious. It's not. It sounds crazy, but it's not contentious.
No, that's the same with Brian. Brian is... Go on, George.
The problem is the spheres don't have horizontal planes. That's the problem. In every single description, they're going to utilize something that the sphere doesn't have. So how come sphere is conclusion? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, take a look at Brian's thumbnail. He's got this globe Earth with about half a dozen different flat planes slapped on the top of it. It looks like a meatball with a load of cheese slices slapped on it. It's weird. But they've got to use flat planes here, there, and everywhere, because it's got to match with reality. That's their problem. Reality is being measured flat, and they can't do much about that, other than utilize the way the reality presents itself and try and convert it through calculation into being that which they've suspended everybody's disbelief into standing on.
Well, they're actually not flat planes, and I explained that. And all you can do is you can view them as a flat plane, because if you're going to deal with them mathematically, you can just deal with them as flat planes.
1 point.
Yeah.
Sure. They're tangent planes, and I get that. In terms of what they represent for the surface, that's why I tried to describe them as, like, the cheese isn't to do with the meatball. You know what I mean? There's only 1 point.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different thumbnail. Sorry, I might be confusing which thumbnail you're talking about.
In any event, they've got a whole bunch of tangent planes that they need. Why? Well, because they've got to reference them to the flat ground they actually measure. Ryan's logic is using comparison mode. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's this new mode. I can be on my phone on the show, and I can share my screen through my computer by joining the meet, but I don't join the meet twice, if you understand what I mean.
Sure, it does that when I present something, actually. I can do that internally on the PC because I pay for it. It's one of the, probably the only reason I use it, because I can, well, let's not bore the audience with the technicalities out of their showruns, but that's a useful feature, yes. And it shows me twice in the Hangout too, right? It's got me as the meeting host and me as the presentation. And it's now got you and you as your presentation. The audience just has that back office stuff hidden from
I'd rather have a double Brian than a double Nathan.
Yeah. Anyway, boring stuff about technicalities. All done so that nobody notice. It's my version of suspension of disbelief, right? The whole intro flowing into me on camera, into you guys, into housekeeping, into potentially covering a video today. It'll be Brian. You know, that kind of, it's how the show disappears in an hour. You go, what? We've done an hour? Yeah, we have, yeah. But that's, you know, you don't want to notice all the different buttons being pressed, or it's when someone hasn't done that you notice, if you know what I mean. It's like the mods in the Discord server. If everyone's doing their job really well, no one notices that anything's going on. Just the show runs smoothly, the Discord server runs smoothly. No one even notices. It's when the mods aren't doing their job very well that suddenly you've got a chaos Discord server and all the rules are being broken. Same for a producer on YouTube. When they're not doing what they're supposed to, suddenly it becomes a bit slow and the pace is wrong to watch it, and so you're tuning out.
Yeah, it's like a TV show. You don't know that it's a TV show until you see someone's microphone. You know, this kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain that to people, having worked in production, because I studied media and obviously performing arts and all these different things where people are out on the road with cameras doing their do. And even when things are live, if anything, live is far more contrived. When you've got control of something, you don't necessarily have to isolate everything around you. You can wait till you get what you want. You can't do that when you're live, so you have to isolate everything. So in some ways, being live is so much more contrived. It's hard to explain. I'm not really using the right words to detail what I'm trying to get across here. There's no such thing as seeing somebody like they want you to imagine in reality TV, for instance. Reality TV is the idea that someone's walking around with a camera filming somebody in their day-to-day life. Well, you can't catch somebody like that. The only way you can catch somebody like that is if they're unaware of something like CCTV. And obviously we're all aware of what you get from that kind of footage. Even with audio, it's patchy and you don't get much out of it. You get snippets of life out of those sorts of videography moments that are put onto, you know, in front of the public or us. So what I'm driving at here is, in order to contrive something in a way that is going to keep you entertained and suspend disbelief and let time just disappear without you realizing it, a lot of effort has to go in. And the same is true for the globe. In order to have that suspension of disbelief function the way it does, there is a lot of mechanisms that must be ticking along quite nicely without anybody having to attend to them. Yeah? Like the machine that's turning the lights on and off on the stage, that's all automated. Right up until the point that someone climbs up the lighting gantry and starts fiddling with the lights, and then everyone looks up at the lighting gantry instead of at King Lear. Suspension of disbelief ruined instantaneously. That's what we do. And people don't like it because it's so jarring.
Exactly. Showing them the flat plane they're using at the center of the globe is like taking the whole thing away. It's pulling back the curtain and seeing the Wizard of Oz, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's not...
Mike,
I
check,
don't
can you
like
hear me?
comparing it to Wizard of Oz. Because in Wizard of Oz, part of the story is the man behind the curtain, right? The dog actually pulls the curtain back. So there you go. Make of that what you will. But in this instance, we're doing it while the play's still going on, aren't we? We're like, you know, in the Wheelers make an appearance in the second one. It's like someone tearing down the set so that the sunlight pours in and you can see all of the people and the wires and the set and all the people with the animatronics, and they're all standing around so that this little skit can function. You know, that's what we're doing. It destroys it. It doesn't let you like, oh, we're distracted here. Oh, right, what part of this story is that there's a guy behind the curtain? Like, I don't know. No, not really. We're yanking down the sets and pulling back the curtains and letting all the sunlight in, and you're seeing what a complete mess it is. And that the ground's flat.
It's
Couldn't
like the
work that into
Truman
the
Show, where
analogy.
he
I
has
tried.
to like come to the realization that it's not just the set that's fake; it's all the relationships he's made his entire life. His wife, his best friend, like everything becomes fake.
That's the fear. That's like Truman Show. I don't think that's true. So I think that's a fear that the starkness of the reality that we present might leave you with as a shock, as a sort of backlash reaction. You know, the shock of it makes you think that everybody's lying to you, and they lean on that. You know, the path in has been conspiratorial, so that when you get here and the shock and awe hits the normie, they can write it off because it's so much, so overwhelming. I tell you, give you a perfect example of this, right? With smoke and mirrors and everything. Penn and Teller once did a stage show, but they filmed it for the TV to show how the magic tricks worked on their stage show. And one of the stage show performances was literally with a giant mirror with a frame hanging between it and the audience, and they're standing on it. But the way the mirror's positioned, you cannot see them standing on this A-frame, but they're hanging about 10 feet above the stage, and they're just standing on this A-frame, the both of them. And he explains that because there's been no announcement, there's been no pomp and ceremony, nobody's expecting anything, even if they're looking directly at the stage. This is the equivalent of the Ford Transit in Braveheart. So what Teller does is he shoves his hand outside of the frame of the mirror. Now, because we know, because he's telling us it's happening, they look back from the audience view, and you can literally see a disembodied hand hanging outside the frame of the mirror. Now, they don't know there's a mirror. They don't know there's two people there. They're certainly not expecting a hand to just appear in the middle of the stage. And the stage, even the house lights are still up. So no one's expecting it. So when he sticks his hand out, nobody notices, even people looking directly at the stage. Yeah? Well, that's the kind of subtle just break in disbelief, like a light flickering on the stage. It's not enough for people to notice, right? What you need is the entire Smoke and Mirrors show. Whoever's off mute in Discord, please can you control yourself? Duncan. Right, second time he's done that in the middle of my story. I give up.
He's been using this
I'm going to the loo. Starting in 5, I give up.
Thing. He's been using this old car horn thing, that guy Duncan. That was the noise he was making. He's like coming off mute and using this, you know that one you'd squeeze? Remember the original car horns? Like a clown would have. He's using that as some kind of a thing to come through his audio with. I don't know what.
Was that guy having mic issues or what? What's going on?
Your man Duncan. Did you hear what I said?
Disappeared. I think he had mic issues.
Yeah,
No, he
yeah.
was. One side.
He said he had mic issues. He said he's sorry.
No, fair enough. I kind of suspected that. Just annoying because I could have got that ramble to easily drag out for another 5 minutes. Broke up my flow about the suspension of disbelief. I'm sure you all know where I was going.
Yeah, we know. Your man Duncan, he's a baller, isn't he?
I don't know.
There's two Duncans. One of them is a flat earther, the other is a baller.
I don't know. I think he might have been the flat earth one, actually. I recognised his name. But familiarity doesn't necessarily mean he's a righteous, good guy.
No, because there's two. There's one Duncan that I heard speak as a flat earther, and there's another guy who's a baller. They're two different guys. I just didn't know which one.
It's kind of funny. Your analogy runs a little bit hand in hand with the dancing bear thing, in a way. You know?
Yeah. That I would compare to an analogy where if you're being kept occupied and distracted with other things, you don't notice the lie that's being perpetrated in the background. And we are very much kept distracted with all manner of nonsense that we don't need to really be paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, one of the big things that they need is for you to accept the measurement, but believe that you know it's not flat. That is what, as contradictory as what I just said is, that's what they need for a globe.
But they buried that, didn't they? They buried it.
They just teach it to you so young, I think, that you're not old enough to question it when they teach it to you.
I'm not talking about the suspension of disbelief bit. I'm talking about the maths bit. We've only found that out in the last 10 years. But if we had to come to this without knowing anything about flat Earth and flat Earthers and all that sort of stuff, even there was no breadcrumbs to follow, there was no feast of nonsense, there was no controlled opposition, there was no flat Earth society, and we just came across this subject and looked at the maths. Well, all right, Earth code maths, let's have a look at this then. You wouldn't immediately spot that they're using a flat Earth in it, would you?
I don't know if probably if you haven't got someone arguing about it to control what you look at, then yeah, it'd probably been a lot easier to see it.
Maybe.
Like if you hadn't been counting the passes in that video, you'd have had a lot easier time seeing the bear dance behind the guys passing the ball.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true. Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by, in no particular order, Brian's Logic, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So welcome, one and all.
How are you?
Alrighty, should we do a bit of housekeeping?
Sure, yeah.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved adjacent?
No.
What does that even mean?
It means can you have a curved line in a triangle that needs a 90?
Well, the whole purpose of an elevation angle is to measure a vertical angular height to something or off something. So it's to or off something in a vertical. So how can you not have a horizontal plane?
You can't.
What's that vertical going to meet? It can't meet the curve.
You can't. It's a prerequisite. I know you were asking rhetorically.
Well, I got my son to agree yesterday. I did the thing you did, Nathan, with the light in the room and all the stars, and he agrees that everything you have to measure is from a flat plane, of course. But then he said to me, but that's only half the sphere. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no sphere involved. He was just really
That's his
frustrating.
antipodal position.
Yeah, because there's supposedly something else going on in the south.
Yeah, there's an interesting route you can take him down, and you can thank John for this. So, once he's wrapped his head around the celestial hemisphere that he's describing, he can then take an antipodal position for the south-centric positioning system that's identical and map it underneath. So you've got a flat plane with the north hemisphere, and then a flat plane antipodal underneath it with the south hemisphere. Now, a couple of times John's dropped this in, but it's pretty advanced level stuff in terms of what they're describing mathematically when they describe an eclipse for the moon. What they're actually describing is that like line that they have running across the moon when they take the mickey out of flat earthers for their version of a flat earth eclipse in a heliocentric orbital motion. Well, in reality, that is actually what is described from a flat plane to each hemisphere wrapped antipodally. We have a common name for it too. We're all familiar with it. The celestial sphere. What is the celestial sphere when you're referencing it to the ground? Well, it's two flat planes sandwiched on top of one another antipodally. So you can have this representation of the heavens spherically. Well, that little trick of mapping and modelling the world antipodally in two flat plane centric systems with hemispherical views of parallel planes that are mapped to give you them is the basis of the heliocentric orbital motion based system from Kepler. So to take that down an interesting path once you understand that, Neil, and I'm not expecting you to digest all of that in one sentence, or in one go, rather, that sentence in one go, to add fuel to the fire of confusion, he'll eventually get to the point where you can explain to him that that would give him a flat pizza pie in his heliocentric motion that they try and strawman us with, that is the basis of his belief in a globe. Ironically, they are the ones with the flat pizza pie, flat line, eclipsing the moon, the way they describe it mathematically. Isn't that weird? And you can take him down that path now, Neil, once you've got your head around it in terms of where he's going with his understanding, which is cute, isn't it, John?
Well, what's actually happening is what's actually happening is to detail the solar eclipse on a globe, they must place you with a telescope at their equatorial plane at vernal equinox, because that removes the tilt aspect of the globe, right? Because the tilt is all based around the sun, so that removes that, and it extends the equatorial plane out into the celestial plane, and you must pre-assume that the celestials are moving, not you. Let's use the exact same thing in celestial navigation. It's not you that's moving, it's the celestial bodies. Same in astronomy. It's not you that's moving, it's celestial bodies. So it's purely flat plane, because the Babylonians were like detailing these things, well before there was any globe or heliocentrism. It's purely just a hijack of the ephemeris and the celestial dome model. I don't call it celestial sphere because that's something that they came up with. There is no celestial sphere. There's three main celestial domes. The one you'll experience north of the equator, the one you'll experience on the equator, and the one you'll experience south of the equator. That's it. If you know what I mean. We all have our own celestial dome. And it's not that the sky is a dome. It's that's how. And I showed this in my video, Nathan, with the latest one. It's purely a protractor. That's all it is. So there is no heliocentric predictions for anything happening in the sky. That doesn't happen. Everything is flat plane, stationary. And they're not predictions. They're just known cycles.
That's funny you say that about the stars moving, because that's when I finally told. He started showing me this opposite star rotation. So I said to him, I said, Jacob, are you showing me stars moving? He's like, yeah, the stars are moving. I said, what about the Earth? I thought the Earth was moving. He turned around and he said, I never said the Earth was moving. I said, then what? You're going around in circles here. What are you claiming? Are you a heliocentrist or are you a anti-global? What are
You've
you?
got to calm your
Because
frustration, because what you're doing is you're seeing his cognitive unwinding. So we've seen it on the show. We've seen people who will deny the rhetoric of the globe. We have a name for them, anti-flat earthers, as they attack us. Now, for your son, it's slightly different. He's attacking you. I suppose it is no different. But he's unwinding cognitively to the acceptance. And when it comes to something that he can't overcome mentally, he personally can relinquish some of these claims. Right? He's a free man. So he will, to overcome cognitive dissonance, relinquish the aspects of Earth spinning to fit within his argument. It's the beginning of the end. That's why we say share your pain. Yeah, all right. So you're going to relinquish some of the aspects of heliocentrism in order to explain this for you. Well, unfortunately, it's not your model. So, yeah, you can do that, but we'll just laugh at you because it's not the heliocentric model. It's a bit like you and your reference frames have been ruined, says Simon Dan. No, I don't have any. You need them, though, don't you? It's part of your religion that you're happy to relinquish as an anti-flat earther.
Exactly. Jacob actually just denied. What happened is he just addressed reality, and in reality, he observes the celestial bodies moving in reality. And when he was detailing it, that's how he detailed it. And then when you told him, Neil, but you're just detailing them moving, I thought they're supposed to be stationary for you. He said, I never claimed they weren't moving or whatever. It's like he's denying his own rhetoric purely because he wants to win a debate or not. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're just addressing reality. And now that I've pointed out that you're addressing reality, you don't want to be held to account for that. That's what it is.
Ian from the chat says,
yeah, I asked him, I said, why are you still holding on to it, Jacob? Just release it. It's not real. It's make-believe. Why would they do that? It's no purpose for them to just come up with a globe. I said, okay. Then I took him to the murder scene. You know? I don't know. He's in pain, I guess. You're right.
cognitive pain, yeah. But you obviously, you're a doting father. You're going to see that and want it on your shoulders, aren't you? You don't want him in pain. He's your son.
Of course, you never want to see your children in pain, but that's the worst pain to see him in, because he's in mental pain right now.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Is it too late to adopt? Can you ship him off elsewhere?
They're not stupid enough to get shipped out. They ain't leaving.
They know a good thing when they see it. Anyway, should we have another one? Any evidence of the distance to the sun? We're getting into this. I was going to flex my intellectual knowledge in this regard, Brian, because it was one of the things you were talking about in terms of the satellites that we're going to segue into shortly. But in terms of their distance that they have to assert when they're giving you heliocentric distances, specifically 1 AU, light speed, they've all been derived from the same flat plane measurements also. So because they control the scale itself, they can also control the units of measure in the form of light speed. And therefore, both the ruler and the measurement with the ruler are under their control. They can slide it, they can extend it, they can tell you how big the scale is, they can make it shorter, they can put whatever numbers they like in. They've got control of it all. Because it was 5 years ago, maybe, a bit baffling to me how they could get their return distances from things in the sky and then claim victory because it matches what they've got. Well, it's like, well, you're telling us how long it will take based on the distance calculation that you've extrapolated out for the distances in the first place and then ascribed light speed to it. So you've got a rubber ruler and a rubber universe. The scale that you're ascribing is only based on flat plane measurements of angles to begin with. And as long as it always back engineers into those flat plane measurements, everything will always function. And you can, like I say, ascribe anything to the scale you like. That's how they got the return distances to match. Because back in the day when Anthony first explained this to me with Huygens, and he compared it to one of the, I can't remember the name of the telescope, one of the big telescopes here in the UK, where a NASA guy comes down to explain about the return signals that they've got from radar bounce, and they can't see in his Jodrell bank, they can't see any information in the return signal, but the NASA guy says, "Oh, there it is, right at the timing we expect it." Now, there's nothing there for the guys at Jodrell Bank, but they get convinced by the NASA guy. Now, that in my version of the story, it's like I'm trying to wrap my head around it 5 years, going, well, there wasn't a return where they expected it. There's the flaw in the story. No, the flaw in the story is he's only looking at that particular time because he's got control of when the time is in terms of the return signal. It's got to match with his heliocentric scaling. The fact that it's not there or not there to see is irrelevant. It just matches with heliocentric timings based on how fast light's going to travel and bounce and come back. But as I say, they've got control of every single part of this scale, structure, everything. What's it based on? Flat Earth measurements. Angles.
What they
stars.
do...
Sorry, I'm done.
Sorry, I thought you were finished, and that's why I came
I was adding an extra conclusion that where's the origin? I always want to drop it in. It's based on angled measurements to stars, isn't it? But that's the origin that I'm going to focus on, 2024 and all. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
And if we go, well, the thing about it is, if you look into it, what came first? The distance to the sun came first, before light speed. Right, the claim two-way speed of light calculation came after that. Or any claims to do with a light speed being used in calculation came after that. And where did the distance to the sun come from? Came from them pre-assuming we're on a globe of radius 3959 miles, and that Venus is also a globe of similar size. And when it transited the sun, they used the angular size of Venus in relation to the angular size of the sun to determine how far we were from Venus and how far Venus was from the sun within their paradigm. And they call that a measurement. And after that, then, they could just change, like, that allowed them to... There was claims about the sun being bigger and further away before that, but not they hadn't got the 93 million, the 90 or the 93 million. They hadn't got any of that. So the problem they have is they had to work with angular sizes, something that doesn't exist within their everyday world. The chair that you're looking at, or the car you're looking at driving away from you, that can't change an angular size within that paradigm. But the sun has an angular size, which is within that paradigm, which is completely bizarre. But that's how they did it. They just compared angular sizes after several pre-assumptions. And then they came up with a two-way speed of light calculation sometime after that. Today it's called Einstein's convention. That's what it's called today. And if you look at it, it's 671 million miles per hour. That's the claimed speed, right, or claimed calculated speed, or whatever, right? But the thing about it is if you break that down into, just 1 second, I'll do it now. I'll break it down. If you break that down by 32, so 671, right? 671 million divided by 32 equals 20,968,750. So you're nearly at 21 million miles, right, per hour, if you broke the two-way speed of light calculation down by 32. Now, in reality, when we're using things like laser rangefinders and police speed guns, all the things we would use, radar, these kind of, or any of these types of special types of radar or whatever, all these kind of things, these return signal things. If we just use that calculation, what would be the difference in reality? It would be a fraction of a second for most of the time, wouldn't it? Nobody would notice the difference because 671 million miles per hour is such a monstrous speed that it would be, you know what I mean? Nobody would notice the difference because 21 million miles per hour is a ridiculous speed. You know what I mean? I think that breaks down as I just divide that by 60, right, and divide it again by 60, and that would mean that light would be moving. If we broke the two-way speed light calculation down by 32 times, divided it by 32 times, light would still be moving at 5,824 miles per second. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, who's going to notice the difference? No one's going to notice the difference. You can break it down further. It's just a calculation that allows them to expand out their paradigm into a bigger and bigger vacuum, and that's all it is, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And they do have an endpoint in Einsteinian mathematics, as far as I understand it. Then there's all sorts of speculation thereafter from what's the guy who just recently died in the wheelchair? Stephen Hawking, where you've got time going backwards and things like that. Big crunch.
Yes. Yeah. Stephen Hawking's also acknowledged that Earth was a flat plane. He said the globe is a flat plane, and that is your X and Y coordinates.
As a paraplegic black lesbian, I find that highly offensive.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made fun of how he talked when he said that, but he did say that.
Why not? It's just a puppet. That's what I heard.
Oh, God. Right, Brian, I'm hoping you've got a presentation to take us away from this slanderous...
I have, yeah. Just give me a moment. I'm just presenting now in a second. I have to just do a little update thing with Google. A second now.
You're updating your PC while we're doing the live stream?
No. I have to just give permission for my screen to be...
Oh, okay.
Okay, can you see my screen there?
Yes.
GeoGebra? Right.
We see your screen.
Screen. Okay, now I'm going to go through this with you. Right, to try and make some kind of have the understanding of it a bit, right? So this is how their claim works, right? Here is their globe at the center, right? This here is the orbital path of the satellite. This is always 12,550 miles away. Now, this is how it works. This is how the only way to help it to work. This is how what I'm going to show here is the only way it can work. One of two ways that it can work mathematically on a globe, right? So you have to remember, what's the claim of their GPS? The claim is that it proves a globe. But what I'm showing is that it not only requires a flat plane for everything it does, but it doesn't prove a globe. It actually does far more proves a flat Earth, right? And that's where the real problem is. Because I'm, as you said before, you're pulling back the curtain, showing them what the wizard actually is doing. So now they're left with a situation where they're allowed to believe in it, but that's all they have is a belief. They don't have any knowing. There's no definite. It disproves the globe. It doesn't. It proves a flat Earth. Because they're using a flat Earth, they know a thing. But this is how it can work geometrically on a globe. So if you take this blue line here, this blue circle, this is always 12,550 miles away from the globe. That's what's called a medium globe Earth orbit. And these four other rings here, they're all connected to these four satellites. There's the blue one, the green one, the red one, and the purple one, right? Each one of them, right, the distance between the satellite and the receiver is claimed that the receiver creates a sphere around itself based off of that as a radius. So this blue line here is making this sphere here, right? And the receiver does the same with this green line here, and this red line, and this purple line. So that creates four spheres intersecting the globe, right? And those spheres will always be based on the length or the distance between the receiver and the satellite. So I'm going to use the blue one here because that, right, rather than moving the ball around, I just use the blue one, right? Here is the receiver in yellow. I'll move in a bit so you can see it a bit clearer, right? Here is the satellite. It gets the claim is officially the receiver gets a signal right, from a satellite, and it determines based off of the time the signal was sent and when the receiver got it, by using the two-way speed of light calculation, the receiver determines its distance from the satellite, right? Now, people might think, why is it not just using the 12,550 miles that the satellite is always from the surface of a globe? No, because where the receiver is and where the satellite is going to give a different length. So this is the only way this can work on a globe, right? This is one of two ways it can work. And they're both the same thing, basically, right? And this is one of the main things that's funny enough that the ballers have a problem with. You think they would embrace this, but no, they don't like it because it actually addresses the Earth. It has a known constant distance here from this blue dot to the satellite of 12,550 miles. It has a known distance from the center of the globe to that blue dot of 3,950 miles. So when it calculates the length of this one, right, this other serrated line here, as you can see that number changing on the screen as I move it, right? As I move that, I'm moving the satellite around in its orbit, but I'm also moving this blue dot. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it, right? That is its sub point. That's the sub point, or what would be the GP point of the satellite. It would be a GP point in celestial navigation. It now has the length of this line. Sorry, this blue line here. Sorry. Just 1 second. I'm just going to take down the opacity of that or whatever, just make it easier. It now has the length of this blue line, and it has the length of this line, right? It knows the angle between this line here and this line based off of the length of both lines and the fact that they're both on a globe of radius 3959 miles. Because it knows that this one is always going to be 12,550 miles in length. So when it calculates this one, right, this line here, right, it knows from that length at what angle this would have to be in relation to this one. And to get right, and how it would determine the arc distance between it and the subpoint is it just needs to get a third line between it and the subpoint, making up a triangle here, and then determine the arc length based off of that chord length. That's one way, one of the ways it could work on a globe, right? Mathematically. Now, we're not going to show the flat Earth part. Yeah, that'll come in a minute. That came before any of this. This is all after the fact, right?
Can I just get a thank you from me and John, because we didn't interrupt that one bit saying you'll need a flat Earth here and there, did we? I could have. I held my tongue twice. I don't know about John.
Yeah, because the flat Earth part is coming up next.
Yeah. I sensed that.
Before this.
I sensed that
on the way.
I sensed that from your preamble in terms of I haven't watched your most recent video, so I'm not really ahead of the game, but I sensed that. Carry on, Brian.
Thank you. The other way it can determine see, this is the thing. What the ballers don't like is the fact that I'm pointing out that the receiver requires the coordinates of the subpoint, which will be a GP point in celestial navigation, let's just say, but it's a subpoint, they call it when it comes to GPS.
Sorry, which system? Just sorry to interrupt. What system are they using for that point?
The point here, it's what you mean? That's GPS. The subpoint.
For what you compared the subpoint, right? It's going to be on a coordinate system. Which coordinate system?
Oh, it's going to be on an XYZ coordinate system.
This is the point. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So it's not got a name. It's just any coordinate system.
Cartesian.
Yeah.
But Cartesian coordinate.
It's not like it's going to be plotted onto any particular map. It's just going to be in a Cartesian grid at this stage.
It's going to have an XY position. See, this is the thing. I'll show you in a minute. This blue subpoint will have an XY position. The ballers keep on wanting to talk about XYZ, but they don't realize, they don't want to accept that the XY position that's actually being referenced in reality, right? They don't want to accept that it's not at the center of their globe, it's actually on the surface of Earth. And that means that the receiver's XY position is in a horizontal more or less, if you treat X, Y as just, let's say, sea level, like, then it's because X, Y is two-dimensional. That means the receiver and the subpoint has to be on the same horizontal, right? That's what it means. And what they don't want to deal with that. They want to deal with only a flat plane in a different way at the center.
I'm really
we'll
sorry
get to
to
that
interrupt.
in a
Now
second.
I'm really confused. The way you explained it 2 minutes ago was that they're getting the chord line to give them the angle, but then they're calculating the curve distance from that based on radius 3959. Yeah?
But what I'm showing here, is how the only way, one of two ways, I'm going to show two ways that it can be done geometrically using a globe after they've used a flat plane. I'm just showing, and the problem is the baller, see this subpoint, none of our opposition except this subpoint. With the exception of one of them, I know. One of them who has looked into GPS and does know
What do you
better.
mean?
He
Hold on.
accepts
What do you
the
mean
subpoint.
except? It does use a
They
subpoint.
want to.
I don't understand.
I'm trying to get to. You're not
sorry to
allowing me.
interrupt.
I'm trying to explain it out to you, but you're not. Remember, I'm trying to get to the point of showing you what I mean. But
Fine.
you have to leave me go through it, and you'll understand then. See, they don't want any coordinates on the surface of Earth because they're claiming X, Y, Z coordinates. That means the X, Y is a horizontal plane. That means the subpoint coordinates that they are denying, that is an official part of GPS. The subpoint coordinates has to be in a horizontal with the receiver because it's two-dimensional coordinates, so they're both placed at sea level in an XY plane. They don't want to deal with that. They want the XY to be only at the center of their globe. Do you understand? Across, they want the XY plane to be, to be here. They don't want it to be there. Do you know what I mean? They don't want that because that means that the receiver is also on this same plane. So they only want to deal with XY from a center point, but that doesn't help them, and that's where I'm getting to in a minute. I'm just trying to point out certain things that how the only way it can actually function on a globe. What to do? Sorry. The only way it actually can function on a globe or geometrically after you've used a flat plane. Just leave me get to it. You'll see it. When I show you the diagrams, it'll all make total sense.
Okay, let me just do a quick shout out.
Okay.
Thanks, Roger Ledwell. It says evening, morning, whichever you choose. Thank you for the super chat. Carry on, Brian.
Yeah. Okay. So the other way that they can do it is they can take this big blue sphere that's based off of the distance between the receiver and the satellite, right, as a radius, and they can determine based off of the size of that sphere and the size of the sphere that it's thinking it's on, that it's going to intersect, right, at these 2 points, right, based off the two sizes. One intersection point will be where it is, and it'll have to intersect here, right, and it'll figure that out based off of the angle to the satellite, right. That's so because they deal with angles. I'll show that in a minute, right. And then all it has to do is based off these 2 points. They don't need to know the coordinates of this. Just needs to half the length of the arc, and that where the coordinates they got for the subpoint. That would be where the subpoint is. That's another way it can work. It's a little bit more complicated, but it can work, right? But all this doesn't matter because this is all after the fact, right? Because I'm just going to stop sharing a second, and I'm going to share a different screen, and I'll show you. 1 second now. Where is it gone? Window. Where's my other window? Oh, sorry. 1 second now. Sorry about this. Oh, I should be able to see it now. Window. Chrome tab. Window. I don't know where it's gone to. 1 second. Cancel. I just go again. Should pick it up this time. Window. Right. There we are.
Yeah, that's working well. That's good.
Okay. So what I was showing there a minute ago was the globe and these 4 different satellites creating 4 different spheres based off of their distance or well, the receiver creating 4 different spheres based off the distance between it and those satellites, right? But here they show on this diagram, this is no official diagram, they show the satellite right in the center of these, which is okay. You kind of go, well, okay, fair enough, you want to depict it that way, but you're just showing 3 circles from overhead, so that's not a globe. But then you go on to the next one, and suddenly they're showing a line to the center of these circles. What's that about? Why are they showing a line to the center of these circles? And these circles now, instead of those lines from the satellite going to the receiver, they're showing them going to what would be the subpoints of the satellite. And see these points on the ground here? These are the things the ballers don't want to address is being used by GPS. How would a receiver find its location if it doesn't have coordinates on the surface of Earth to determine its location from?
Just to drop this in here, if you look on my diagram just below yours in the Hangout, got the same exact thing for 3 circles of equal elevation when you're finding your GP as opposed to the subpoint. You need it on a flat plane. The penny dropped halfway after you told me off for interrupting constantly. But yeah, so if you've got 3 points that are matching up with your measuring point on a Cartesian grid, the XY is flat. Therefore, you can't have it cutting through a chord line and calculating curved distances when you're going to be plotting it out from the measurement point to the GP, in this instance, subpoint, flat. It's flat.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. 1 second. You see, this is the thing. They went away from the spheres that I've made here that are supposed to be based off of a distance between the receiver and the satellite. And suddenly, these dots here that I'm pointing at, these circles are based off of a distance between the receiver and these subpoints. So suddenly, the circles that are being made, they're not spherical caps anymore, because you can't have a circle on a sphere. They're now 2-dimensional circles, and they're based off of a distance between the receiver and the subpoints, not based off of an intersection of 4 spherical caps. And how does the receiver determine its distance to these places? Well, it needs 2 things, doesn't it? What does it need first? It's going to need azimuth, right? Another thing the ballers are denying, and I don't know how many photos are showing that GPS receivers have compasses in them. They're called microsensor compasses. And they work with the magnetic field. They're a MEMS compass of some kind. They work with the magnetic field, and they're using magnetic north, right? And that gives them, right? What happens is that the receiver gets the azimuth of, let's say, this blue, or this green dot here, right? The azimuth of that, which will equal the azimuth of, let's say, the satellite. We just use the satellites. I know they're nonsense, but we just use them for the moment, right? The same for the blue dot, the black dot, and the orange dot, right? So it knows, based off of its compass, what direction in relation to north they're in. So if north is here, and the receiver is getting a signal to say the blue dot is southeast, it knows that the blue dot is southeast, so it's going to make the azimuth from north around the southeast, right? That's what it's going to do, east to west. That's how azimuth works. Then what's it going to need? It's going to need elevation, isn't it? Right? And it has to know that what's known as the mask angle. The ballers also denied that GPS uses an angle. It needs to know the mask angle, because just like with celestial navigation, GPS tries not to deal with anything below 10 degrees, 10, 15 degrees. Right? Depends on the receiver, but they try not to deal with anything that's below 10, 15 degrees. And this is the official claim, right? Now, they don't need to deal with anything below. They're still dealing with a flat plane, right, and flat plane coordinates after this, right, with the way I actually show how it works, right, in my own video on how it works. But even within this, I can make this work easy on a flat plane. I can make it work on a globe, but it's more complicated, and I must start with a flat plane.
What do you mean you can make it work on a flat plane? It is a flat plane.
Yeah, but that's my point. GPS was claimed to prove a globe, but they need azimuth and elevation, which is the horizontal coordinate system. Here they're showing a 45-degree angle to this satellite. The receiver will use the signal from this one, but it won't use the receiver from this one over here because it's below 10 degrees. How does it know what 10 degrees is? Because it knows what angles are. How does it? Why does it have a compass? Because it needs to know what azimuth is. Is azimuth? What's azimuth and elevation? Azimuth is flat plane coordinates from north around east, south, and back around west. What's elevation? It's an elevated angular vertical height above horizontal plane. That's what it's doing. And it then uses triangles. If it knows it has a 45-degree angle to whatever, and you know what I mean, it knows directly below the satellite is the sub point. It's then using that angle, the triangle it makes, to find the sub point. Now, I show what I say in my other video on how I show it works. I think that's how it's actually working, not what they say here, because what they say here would mean that the actual distances would have to be different in different things within their calculations. But the point is, they have to start with azimuth and elevation. And after that, they can start calculating in a globe, but they can't do anything without that. And this is the problem. The borders can't handle this, because this means the borders want this to be the center of their globe. It's not. That angle, see this point here, that 45 degrees point, where it's meeting the edge of this dome here. That is, well, remember I said earlier about them not wanting to deal with the subpoint. That is for them the subpoint on their globe. And they don't want to deal with that coordinate, with the coordinates matching the subpoint, because they want the coordinates only to come from the center of their globe, the equatorial plane of their globe, and they don't want to deal with an XY coordinates on their surface, because that means there's 4 XY coordinates on their surface for the subpoint of points of 4 different satellites, and there's also an XY coordinates for the receiver on the surface of the globe. And what does that make their globe? A flat plane.
Yeah.
So they don't like it.
It's bizarre. It should be really obvious. It should have been really obvious. Why did it slip us by? You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's my point on it. It's like that was what I was trying to point out with the XYZ back in 2019, 18, whenever it was. That they're using a flat plane because that's what they're dealing with. What did they survey? They survey flat planes. Everything is a flat plane, flat plane, flat plane. They're not dealing with curved anything. They're dealing with flat planes and elevations above and below that flat plane. And that's what they're doing. And in GPS, that's what they're doing. Because they're navigating reality. You're finding your way from A to B. I'll put it this way, right? This is something I've asked some of the ballers in the past, but it's a very easy question. If I'm navigating my way from where I am now, let's just say, to where you are, Nathan, right? If I'm navigating over a curve, then an airplane flying from where I am to where you are will have to account for that curve, won't it? Will it be accounting for that curve? No, because it's not there. If it was, airplanes would have to account for it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no way around it. You know, if GPS is going to address reality and get me from where I am to where you are, then it's going to have to address a flat plane with topography, because it won't need the topography part is secondary, because GPS mainly just works into 2 dimensions. It's just A to B on a map, basically, and it can give you your elevation because it has access to mapping or it has mapping installed, but your elevation is not important. It's only from where you are to where you're going. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's interested in as much of a straight line as possible. So if it's a curve between me and you, how come airplanes aren't accounting for this curve?
Well, there isn't.
Because it's not there.
Well, it isn't, and it's not dealt with that way, as you're showing. You know, you can try and wrangle it in a way that makes it seem like it's working on a globe, but it isn't. I liked how you said, it's a weird mindset, I can make this work on a flat Earth. You're like, it is a flat Earth. What are you talking about? There's nothing to make work.
Yeah, but what I meant by that is that within the official claim, I can make it work on a flat Earth. Easier to kind of make it work on a globe within the official claim. This is the official claim on how GPS works. Whereas my own version of what I think is happening with GPS is a little bit different. I might go into that maybe tomorrow, not today, but maybe tomorrow or the next day on what I reckon is happening with GPS. because this is okay, but this has a few flaws. But yet it works better on a flat plane than it, like mathematically I'm talking about. It works better on a flat plane than it will on a globe. I can make this work on a flat plane. I can find the distance to the subpoint on a flat plane. Do you know what I mean? Easier than I can on a globe. I need more calculation on a globe. But I still have to start with a flat plane to even address the globe. Because remember earlier on, remember that line that was going up to the satellite that was through its subpoint from their center point? That's what this is. But now this diagram is showing just honesty. No, you're just on a flat plane. There is a thing, an angle to something above you. And it doesn't have to be above you. It can be a stationary, something that's stationary at a different altitude. Or it can be an airplane. Airplanes have GPS receivers on top of them and on the bottom. On the bottom, they need, I think there's assisted GPS, which what you will get, and I will get with our phone, and there's differential GPS, which is what surveying will use, I think military use and aerospace use, and shipping will use. So what is differential GPS? It's ground stations. Assisted GPS and differential GPS are very similar in a lot of ways. They're just using ground stations. So they call them like a repeater station. That kind of way. So the plane is getting GPS information from the ground that the ground is claiming to get from the sky. You know what I mean?
Roger Legwell says the A and B satellites and screenwriters. I don't really know what he means.
No, Roger talks in kind of riddles sometimes.
Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, but
really
why would they?
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I'm just saying, why would airplanes have receivers on their top and their bottom? Why would they use them? Why would they have one on the base of the man on the top, on the roof? Right? Well, the one on the roof can be used with other planes if it wants, or high altitude balloons. We don't need to have satellites, as in orbiting a globe in a heliocentric space. The one on the bottom is used with ground stations. If you're flying a plane, are you telling me that the plane can't pick up GPS from a ship that it's flying over? You know what I mean? Our opposition want to deny that this is possible. No, they're not picking. Why not? They're picking it up everywhere. And as far as I'm concerned, in the way I show how GPS works, I just don't have the time to go into that right now. That is another one. That is another 20-minute presentation, which I probably might do tomorrow if you're around, or the next day. I reckon they're also using celestial navigation. Why wouldn't they? GPS is basically based off of it. Why would you not use celestial navigation? It makes no sense not to use celestial navigation. So I think in my system, they're using celestial navigation, and they're using every single source they can find, every piece of information they can get on any coordinates. Why not? That's what will give you precision. That's what will help you. You know.
I asked the question, not anything to do with this, but if you're on an airplane, are you detached from the Earth?
Yes.
Having me on, Neil. Why are you asking that?
Okay. I had Dell.
The same is true for a helicopter.
Saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because he's taking a piss out of Anthony's experiment because he's going against this claim that we're on a stationary Earth, that nobody ever claimed any type of non-movement. So he takes Anthony's experiment and he says, if I was on a plane and I jumped out with Anthony's experiment in free fall, it would totally debunk Anthony's experiment, because once you're detached from the Earth, it don't work. I said, but wait a second, why do you even got to get off the plane? If you're on a plane, you're detached from the Earth. He said, no, you're not.
If you change one of the control variables and you try to have two independent variables, it won't work. No, it won't, Dale. You're an idiot. You don't know what an experiment is, obviously. You're just using words. Yeah. What's held constant with...
Sorry, John, go on. Sorry, I just...
What's held constant when Anthony's doing his little relative density test there? Is he on a bus doing it? Is he in motion while he does it?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. He's claiming that once you take it out of that and go in free fall, but
So you're no longer doing an experiment.
it only works. Hold on. It only works when you're attached to the Earth. But if you're detached from the Earth, so I don't know what he's talking about. If he jumps out, he's no longer detached from the Earth. But if you're in a plane, you're detached from the Earth. He said, "No, I'm an idiot." And lift. That means you're on the Earth.
Okay, let John unpack it. He's tried a couple of times.
Right. He said, what if I change something else while doing Anthony's experiment? He's trying to introduce two independent variables. Do you test two independent variables in an experiment? Is that an experiment? And if it's not an experiment, how does a non-experiment debunk an experiment?
We're dealing with it from all sides within Flat Earth, it seems. They all want to use the same magic trick that deceived everybody else, which is claiming you've got science when you haven't. I mean, I thought we'd have communicated this across to the whole Flat Earth community 5 years ago. I'm sure QE was hoping it would have been done 6 or 7 years ago when he appeared on the scene. And it's intrinsic.
Yeah, but I think Dell's getting confused. I think Dell's getting confused with. I thought Newton's laws of motion were not correct, right?
Yeah, well, they're not correct for on the small scale. You know what I mean? They can work pretty well on the big scale, but not on the small scale. They were debunked by quantum mechanics on the small scale because things don't adhere to them on the small scale. You know, maybe gas behavior or that kind of thing. But when the guy is jumping out of the airplane, is he going down? Because according to Dell, he's not going down.
Yeah, I said that too.
Yeah.
He said,
But
no,
see,
the Earth is rising up.
Yeah, but then in that case, weighing scales can't work. You understand?
I said that too. I said, Dell, a weighing scale debunks you. I hope he didn't go into it anymore because I don't know how I would break it down, but I just threw it in there.
Well, how do you press down on a weighing scales if you have no weight? If you've got no weight, it means you have no inertia. So an earth pushing up against you, like if an earth was coming consistently going upwards against you and you have no weight, you wouldn't even be attached to it because it'd keep on bouncing you up to it. But the point being is that if you have no weight, you have no inertia. If you have no inertia, so there's nothing for that weighing scales to press against. You understand? So it's like it's pressing against nothing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got it. Yeah.
So weighing scales need something to press. It needs to be pressed in two directions. Something either it can be something coming up underneath it, like you can weigh yourself. You can weigh yourself in a lift. You know, in an elevator. You can weigh yourself in an elevator, but you still will have a downward force on that scales. But within his paradigm, you can't have a downward force because you don't have weight. It's only apparent, not actual. That means you don't have inertia. That means you can't put pressure on the scales. Nothing can. If you know what I mean.
Is that a good enough
Well, I
answer,
say
Neil?
next time.
It's Neil that's asking the question. I just want to know if it's been answered to his satisfaction or not.
Yes, I got it.
Next time someone asserts something about Dale debunking Anthony's experiment, I'll just assert something that's not an experiment to debunk water boiling. You know, that seems to be acceptable in this arena, right? You can say it's the shape of the container that causes water to boil.
But that's basically what he's doing, right? When he's
It's nuts. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
everything changes. Once you detach from the Earth, everything changes.
Yeah, that's because there's no solid surface. You know what I mean? There's no solid surface for it to sit upon. You know what I mean? He's dealing with fluids, mostly liquids, and all these little things he's doing. There's no solid surface for it, it's in with liquids and sometimes air, so it's gases. You know what I mean? These things aren't going to behave the same if there isn't a solid surface. You know what I mean?
Right. So, Brian, what he's basically doing is he's taking everything out of equilibrium. And once it rests again on the Earth, it's going to fall right in line. Am I right?
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. I mean, I've looked at some of the things he came up with before, and he was not understanding some of the things he was saying. This is going back a bit now, so I don't know if he was using the words like acceleration and inertia in places they had no business being. You know what I mean? Things like that.
If I knock your pot of water off the stove, hold on, Neil. If I knock your pot of water off the stove, how you going to prove it's heat causing it to boil then, buddy? Huh?
Yeah, well, flat-side ain't helping the situation by adding things that don't make any sense.
Like what?
Unequal, uneven something. What did he say? It was, freak, I forgot the word, but it doesn't make any
unbalanced
sense.
Force. Unbalanced force.
Uneven. Yeah.
Unbalanced force. That's what you're talking
Yes.
about, is it? I did hear Flatside say something like that, or I saw a clip or a short video of his or something like that. I don't know what he was addressing dealt with. I don't know what it was, but I heard him say unbalanced force. See, the thing about it is this, right? If a weighing scale debunks him, then that's the end. And it does. So that's it. It's over. You don't need. I can go into other things that will debunk it as well. I can show him with balloons filled with different types of gases that will debunk them. But I don't need to do all that. Just a weighing scale. That does it. But the problem is that it's like when Nathan said, "What about the clouds?" And he said, "Never mind the clouds." It's like, why did he say that? And he went straight past the very thing that debunked him. Because he doesn't want to be debunked. He doesn't want to deal with that. He wants to go into the minutiae of his claims and how they somehow debunk some other things. It's like, no, from the get-go, your claims are debunked. Your clouds, right? Rain scales, these kind of things, debunked. That's it. Whatever you're claiming after that, he might see some phenomena that's a bit strange and he might want to explain it, but it's man-made phenomena, you know what I mean, that he might want to explain, and that's fine if he wants to do that, but he can't be claiming the earth is moving up because that claim is debunked.
I could explain his man-made phenomena. He made it.
Well, see, there's the thing. That's the other simple answer to it. Yeah, the reason that's happening is because you're causing it. Do you know what I mean? By doing the thing. But you know what I mean? Look, this is the problem. When people are making like big, complicated claims, simple things often debunk these big, complicated things, and they don't want to deal with these simple things that debunk them. They want to look straight past them and go into their complicated claim, if you know what I mean, because they don't want to deal with the simple thing that will, even your own self, when you come up with some complicated idea, often it's a simple thing that will end that idea. Do you know what I mean? Oh, hang on, what about that thing? Oh, yeah, that won't work. Do you know what I mean? But, so it's just a natural thing people do, and he's doing that. So it doesn't matter why someone comes at him with, he's not going to accept it. No matter how much of a debunk it is, he's not going to accept it. That's why he said to Nathan, never mind the clouds. Why would we not mind the clouds? You know what I mean? They're directly in violation of what you're claiming. You know what I mean? Why would we not mind them? That makes no sense.
Why does everything appear to be going down? What about the clouds? Never mind the clouds.
The archaeologist turns to the group of researchers surrounding
Well, then everything doesn't appear to be going down. What are you talking about? It's not everything, so it's not a law.
The archaeologist.
And then you're going on to detail how doing a non-experiment will debunk an experiment. He sounds like he's mentally ill.
Well, at what speed does steam rise up at? How many meters per second will steam rise up at? And at what temperatures? Different temperatures will cause, and pressures will cause steam to rise at different rates. How do they deal with that? You know what I mean? Is that the Earth moving up? Is the Earth suddenly decided to move up at different rates to match what the steam is doing? You know, you can go into the minutiae of it, and you know what I mean. But it's just not workable. In the story, it's not a workable claim. You know, but he'll want to get to the point where you have to prove that it's stationary. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's his point. He wants us to prove that it's stationary.
Say no. Say no.
Okay,
I'm all right.
not moving.
I'm all right. I'm all right. No, thanks. Just say no. Don't justify that you don't have to. Say no, I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm all right for that, thanks.
I'm all right for that, thanks, Del. What's that? You say I have to? You go and toss your bottles, son. Never mind the clouds.
Yeah, I'm going for that, thanks. Yeah, hand wave it.
Yeah.
Well, in his chat, the one guy says, "Oh, please, Neil gets told to shut up by a grown man." I said, "Excuse me, Nathan told your hero Del he'll laugh in his face." Well, is flying on him. So worry about your boy, not me.
Look, putting outrageous claim in false dichotomy might work for the Globers because they've got an entire Western world viewpoint behind them. It don't work for Del. He doesn't have an entire Western world viewpoint backing his nonsense claim. It just becomes an extraordinary claim. Well, when you have an extraordinary claim, it requires extraordinary evidence. And when they say, well, you prove this non-claim in juxtaposition, no, I'm all right, thanks. That's the only response you need to give him. Because what? If you don't prove me wrong, the default position stands. He doesn't hold the default position, does he? So the only way he's going to seem to have a winning argument, what? Stack his position up against ours in false dichotomy? Well, there's no need. He can't just rely on the default position if we just say no. No, I'm all right, thanks, Del. No, I don't need to prove it stationary. You knock yourself out, son, with your outrageous claim. What have you got? What, your bottle toss? Never mind the clouds? I'm all right. You're on your way, son. You sound like a nutter. Because you're going to be perceived by one as... From me, I just see you as a nutter. Let's not say how he looks. I see you as a nutter.
Yeah, it's a pre-assumption.
If someone come up and... I was just going to say, if somebody walked up to you and said, why is nothing happening, right? Because that's exactly what he's doing. How do you even rationalize that person at that moment? I don't. It has to be mental illness at that. I can't figure it out any other way. Why is it not moving? We're not saying it's not moving. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, as Nathan was saying, if they start off with the pre-assumption that their paradigm is already the given, then they'll place it on your doorstep to prove what is just observable in reality. You know, how do you prove that water is wet? You know, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like that's not something I have to prove. Like, you know what I mean? I'm all right for that.
Exactly. He's proven his claim by that jumping out, throwing a bottle out the window. That this means that there's an upward rising.
Humour him.
Right? And the Earth is not
is that right? Oh, that's so good for you. Just humour him. No way you're all getting so worked up about it, to be honest.
Oh, it's I just go in on Saturdays when there's no ball busters. You gotta go in there and break chops a little bit. So I go in there and I troll them.
Yeah.
I get them all worked up too. I said, wait a second, Del. Why would you even have to jump out of the plane? Once you're on the plane, you detach from the Earth. No, Neil, you're an idiot.
So when you're on the ground, you're attached to the earth. When you're in a plane, you're still attached to the earth. But when you jump out of the plane, you're not attached to the earth.
That's what I'm saying. How does it make any
Is that what it's
difference?
saying?
Yeah, how does it make any difference? If you jump out of the plane, you're in the plane. You're still attached to Earth. So if Anthony's experiment is working on the plane, and then you jump out of the plane, now all of a sudden you're detached from the Earth because you're free falling?
Yeah, that checks out.
It's like, I don't understand how people are falling for this.
I don't know why you're worried about them. You're saying, why are the dumb people? That's basically what you're saying. Some people will buy anything, Neil.
Yeah, well, they seem to be attacking us, so I'm I'm defending FED while you're having a little vacation and enjoying your weekend. I'm over here defending FED because that's what they're coming against. It's us, really, and
No,
what
really.
we're accomplishing.
I don't feel that's the case very much at the moment. We're not really putting any positions as arguments. We're just sort of stating facts. So the whole presentation today from Brian, right? He's trying to help them out as far as I can tell, aren't you, Brian? Very kind of you. They don't like it. And you're like, oh, ungrateful lot. He's only trying to show you the way, how it could work if you believe your belief. He's trying to help you, aren't you, Brian? Very empathetic.
Yeah, if you just believe, if you just accept that it's a belief, then this is how it'll work. If you want to make it into reality, you can't use that. That globe, like. You need to use the flat plane. But if you want to keep a belief going, then this is how you can show how your belief works after you've used the flat plane.
It's just a stance that we're taking. See, it annoys him, celestial navigation, that annoys him because he says, all I need is a plumb bob with this freaking horizontal line. This is all fairy tale. That's what he says. He doesn't even understand what we're talking about.
So horizontal lines is all fairy tale. All right. When did they always
So the horizontal he believes, the horizontal he asserts is rising up is a fairy tale and to him. Well, people should tell him that.
No, Earth measured flat is bothering him because he could do the same thing with a plumb bob in space.
What?
Oh, drop a plumb bob in an area that doesn't exist? What?
How would you know what horizontal is? Space, what's that?
You still need a reference, right?
Yeah,
you need a horizontal, right?
Horizon, rate of slope 0. Look, you know what the problem is? All these people learned about celestial navigation from the ballers. So the ballers use tangent planes, things that aren't in existence in reality, and they try and claim that they're measuring, angles with just a tangent plane and, a plumb bob or whatever, and that solves that problem. And they're saying, see, that's not an argument for a flat Earth. Even though every single time they need to talk about an angle, they need to talk about a tangent plane. And that tangent plane has to be a horizontal, something that doesn't exist on their globe, just like the vertical doesn't exist on their globe. Do you understand what I mean? And there needs to be another right angle then at the GP of the celestial body. That's two right angles, one at the observer and one at the GP of the celestial body. And the baseline between those two right angles needs to be the same baseline. So how are they working that out? And you're referencing the Earth twice. You're referencing the Earth twice and making two measurements. What do you want? The ballers, within their story, do you think the ballers are telling any of these people that all the full spiel about how they're using the vernal equinox and the equatorial plane that extends out into the celestial plane at vernal equinox?
That's why I say they should be bloody grateful. But you're exposing how the curtain pulled back, or however you phrased it earlier, and they don't like it. They want to remain in a suspension of disbelief without you ruining it for them. You're ruining their fun. You're ruining their imagination.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with how celestial navigation use a massive stationary plane. They don't want to deal with that, and how their globe surface just becomes a celestial dome. They don't want to deal with that. They want to tell everyone that celestial navigation is just done this, that, and the other way, and there's nothing to do with the Earth. And never mind, it doesn't prove anything except for a globe. Even though it's not referencing anything to do with a globe. You know what I mean? It's a heap of nothing. And people on the flat Earth side listen to them and then come over and start telling us about it, as if they've learned something.
Yes, that's exactly what Matthias did. He went over to Proto-Fad, whatever his name is, and because he's done celestial navigation. We're just showing pictures, and he went to the guy that's done it, and he said it's not accurate.
Well, it's not accurate.
It is accurate. It's accurate with it. You end up within, I think you can end up within a couple of 100 meters of your desired location if you do it right.
No, that's what Nathan said. Wait, he's done it. So he's accomplished it. So thank you very much. What do you mean it's not accurate?
Are they talking about down to the millimeter? You're dealing with thousands of miles. If you get within a couple of 100 meters or a couple of 100 feet of your location, I would call that pretty handy accuracy now. Come on,
especially if you're lost, right?
Well, I mean, if you're starting off from a position of loss and then you navigate thousands of miles and you end up within, what, a half a mile or less than half a mile from your desired location, you're really looking at it. Yeah. How is that not accurate? I don't see how that can't be called accurate. You know what I mean? Based off the scale. If you're talking about scale here.
I find it strange how we're getting attacked from the flat Earth side.
Why would that be strange to you?
Well, all these years they're looking for a silver bullet, right? Looking for a proof. We got one, and it's met with nothing but controversy.
Listen, I even have had flat earthers just yesterday, I won't go into who it is, trying to claim that Polaris, the GP of Polaris, is not the geographic North Pole, right? And where is that claim coming from? A globe. The globe says it's not. Yes, there is no geographic North Pole without the GP of Polaris, because that's where latitude came from. That same flat earther tried to claim that latitude came from the declination of the sun. No. Latitude starts and ends with Polaris. Do you know what I mean? This is all globe nonsense that the flat earthers are listening to. They're coming to us as if they've learned something, as if they have some kind of knowledge. Nobody can ever show you how Polaris, the GP of Polaris, is not the geographic North Pole. Nobody can show you how the geographic North Pole and the magnetic north are not, and grid north and the GP of Polaris are not all in one place. Literally nobody. They can come up with stories and nonsense. I've seen everything they have to offer. Everything they have to offer. And they can't prove their claims. Yet we have flat earthers coming to us with globe claims. Trying to give me a coordinates to Polaris's GP that's not 90 degrees north. It's like, if it's not 90 degrees north, then it's not the GP point of Polaris, because that's where 90 degrees north comes from. There wouldn't be a 90 degrees north if it wasn't for the GP of Polaris. You know what I mean? Flat earthers trying to have that argument with other flat earthers. Globe arguments they're trying to have with you. Why is where is the evidence that the GP point of Polaris is not the geographic North Pole? No, there's no evidence. Remember, they tried to show it. There was even a flat earther that had videos that was in here, and the videos didn't show any anything of what was supposed to happen. I've seen ballers show similar videos, and they can show you a diagram, and the Polaris moves around this way, and it doesn't. None of that happens. None of it happens. Polaris just stays where it is, and that's 90 degrees, and directly below it, that's 90 degrees north. Soak it up. It is what it is.
Just out of interest, right? If we did have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, which I'm pretty sure we don't based on first-hand testimony from Robert Shortman, but given the day and age and that there are people down there, why wouldn't you just phone someone up or Skype them? Like we did, right? 10 years ago, we did Tracking the Sun. I don't know if you were around then, Brian. Were you around then?
I remember, Nathan, I wasn't involved in it. I was around since 2015, so I came into it when you did. I was in at the same time as you were, so I basically probably saw the same stuff as you, but I wasn't involved in that.
Fine. But one guy just tuned in and showed us the 24-hour sun in the north. Periodically poked his head into the stream. There's the sun, still above the horizon. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you just do that for someone down there? Any chance you can just, set up a live stream? Live, and we'll have a chit-chat. When the
Wait, what would that prove,
around, there was all sorts of Brits that just jumped online, started broadcasting the auroras because they could, because it's so easy. If this is a thing that's supposed to happen year in, year out, we'll just broadcast it. Just ask someone down there. Why do we have to get on planes and go down there? I mean, I'm not even arguing from ignorance or from silence, I should say, when I say, wouldn't they already have these things in existence if I'm trying to overcome it? Because I'm not. If there is that anomaly, fine. Just it'd be well documented like the 24-hour sun in the north is. It isn't. But we're in a communications age. It's easy to have a literal live conversation with someone when they point their camera out their window. So why can't we do that? Why is it so difficult? Why do we have to have things deemed to be experiments that haven't got any independent or dependent variables to be validated with a hypothesis? Why have we got to do any of this? There's already people down there.
But they're taking a piss at UAQE.
Just then
right. The whole idea. But the whole idea that the sun will have a positive elevation angle above the surface, right? Basically, that the elevation angle to the sun will be above the horizon for 24 hours. How's that going to prove it's a globe?
It isn't. They've got to affirm the consequent to do it. But I'm just saying, they're trying to put together an affirming the consequent fallacy. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P, right? If Earth's a sphere, we'll have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. We have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, as per this demonstration, therefore Earth's a sphere. Now, from day one, we've pointed out this is an affirming the consequent fallacy, even if they had the validation of the Q statement. But they don't. So they're going out looking for the Q to validate the affirming the consequent. Does this not all sound very familiar? Bob Nodell, rest in peace. He fell victim to this.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So why are we doing it again? Furthermore, if you want to affirm the Q statement, just ask. That's what I'm saying. Furthermore, if you do want to affirm the Q statement, regardless of its use of affirming the consequent to prove your sphere, which it doesn't, go and ask someone to do it. Why the hullabaloo? Just do it. Phone someone.
What?
But your P statement necessitates the Earth be a flat plane.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was just going to say.
Point that out after they affirm the consequent and take their victory. Let them do a little victory dance and then say, your P statement requires a flat plane of measurement. What are you talking about? How does this affirm the consequent for a sphere? It doesn't. It's a flat plane measurement that you're describing in your affirming the consequent. Even if they prove it. But I don't think they will. Like I say, I've had first-hand testimony of someone that spent 18 months down there. There was no 24-hour sun.
So they're going to prove a flat plane. Brilliant.
Well, the globe is going to need a flat plane anyway for its radius. But what's important here to the borders is not going there and not showing it. Because if that was important to them, the fact that they haven't been able to show it would be a massive problem, right? What's important is they get numpty flat earthers to agree that if it was there and there was a 24-hour sun, then that means it's a globe. That's all that's important to them.
And if I noticed that somebody shared a clip with me of Jaron discussing this, I'm like, okay, if Jaron falls victim to this for a second time, I'll just start outright calling him a shill or thick.
Yep.
You know, it's just, if you're so stupid that you don't realise that an affirming the consequent fallacy is being used against you, you're being tied into it. If you get tied into it, fall victim to it for a second time, then that's your that's your place here. You know what I mean? That's your point being here then, as far as I can tell. Because it's already happened once with Netflix.
Fool me once, shame
but
on
it's not
you.
even
Fool me twice, shame on me. So it's shame on Jaron if he falls for it again. Correct.
Right, but with what we know, it's not even a true affirming the consequence statement, because the peace statement, it necessitates a flat plane. To assert it, like, it's not a. Where do you end up with the conclusion it's a globe in any of this?
You don't.
You know, it's right. So it's not an affirming the consequent. It's kind of like a mutation of it.
Yeah, it's the same thing we had last time.
That's
It's like,
really
I'm trying to
stupid.
tell Bob Nodell, look, getting them to actually tie themselves down to Earth is rotating underneath is quite useful. Yeah? That's what we should be doing. Okay, you say Earth turns underneath the gyro. So Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Well, then we'd have an effective Coriolis for everything. Planes, trains, automobiles. Right?
But what's important to them is to go there at one particular day. It's probably going to happen at one particular day, right, where there is the most amount of light throughout the year on just that one day. Now, it should be 3 months, right? 3 months of total 24-hour sun, like it is in the north. But no, they want it. It's going to be probably at one particular day, and they want to see how many people, how many numpties on their side would just agree, yeah, it is a sphere, if we see that. I don't know what the sun is. I have no idea. I know none of them know what the sun is, ball or flat, right? So I can't say what it can or can't do. Do you know what I mean? But I can tell you how airplanes fly. I can tell you how surveying is done, celestial navigation, measurements. I can tell you that. But the sun, I don't know anything about that. Back in the Wi-Fi. Have to go.
I see, Brian. But yeah, the description, right, in your P statement, the P part of it, the description of it necessitates Earth to be a flat plane. This thing happens on a flat plane, therefore we see this thing happen, therefore it's a sphere. It doesn't follow logical form, not even fallacious logical form. It's just complete non sequitur that almost looks like a logical fallacy, a formal logical fallacy.
Yeah. Now, if we get condemned for pointing that out for a second time, it's like something very suspicious is going on. Tomorrow in the live stream, we'll be a bit more vocal about it. Right, let's just break down what this is. We've already done it once before. I've even released a 10-minute video on it. But let's break down what's really going on. Akin to affirming the consequent with Earth rotation, star rotation, you can do the same thing here. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, like rotation of what? Earth. Okay, well, in your description, what's the Earth? Well, it's the plane of reference, and you're trying to figure out if it's it rotating or the stars. How does that prove it's a globe? Same thing with it. We didn't say that back then, right? Because nobody, I guess, understood that point. But
no.
I don't know. Where does the globe come in at ever?
It's just the P in and affirming the consequent. That's it. They need an if. If Earth's a globe.
Right, but if Earth's a globe, then we'll observe what?
Flat Earth
Q,
rotation. Flat Earth
elevation.
axial descriptions of rotation.
Yeah, that doesn't, you can't even try to make that follow in any way to give it form. You know what I mean? It's like the biggest logical leap of stupidity. I don't even, almost seems like madness is what all I can say.
Right, I think I'm going to round out unless Adam's got something he wanted to add.
Well, I do. Sharon's a shill. Something nefarious is going on here. Because she can't be that stupid twice.
Okay, fair enough. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on Ko-Fi and PayPal and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.